And the first kind of mutation we have is a substitution mutation. Finally getting to answer the question you asked me. How long ago that was. In a substitution mutation, it's exactly what it sounds like. One base is substituted for another. Now, if you look at your codon chart, you should be able to figure out why sometimes you can have a substitution mutation and it have no effect at all. It's a mutation, it's a genetic mistake, but it has no effect at all. Why might that be? This comes back to what you were asking me before. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
What did you notice when you looked at it?
Because there are multiple codons that code for multiple amino acids.
Exactly, there is redundancy in the code. In fact, if you look at it carefully, you'll find out that quite often you can replace the third base and it has no effect. That's why some people refer to that third base as, sometimes it's referred to as the wobbly base, because you can change out the third base for most things, it doesn't change the codon. If we have a mutation where we change that third base but the amino acid is the same, would you ever know the mutation occurred? No, because there'd be no outward sign of the mutation occurring. Now, if we do a genetic profile, we would notice it, because we notice, hey, wait a minute, that's supposed to be this and it's something else. But as far as the organism is concerned, there'd be no outward sign of anything being different, because there isn't. As long as we get the same amino acid, we're good. Frame shift mutations, not so much. Frame shift mutations are when we have what we call a change in the reading frame. I'm going to show you an example in a second. And there are two ways it can happen. A deletion means we lose a base, and insertion means we add an extra one. So now if we're looking at a base, and let's suppose it's supposed to be UAC, GGG, UUU, AUG, whatever. Let's suppose this is supposed to be our protein. We'll assume it already started, we'll just look at this piece. Well, AUG codes for what? I'm sorry, UAC, I'm sorry. UAC codes for tyrosine. GGG codes for glycine. UUU codes for phenylalanine. And AUG codes for methionine. That's what we're supposed to have. Well, now if we have a deletion mutation, let's suppose here's where the deletion occurs. I'm going to stick this A over here because I'm going to forget what I drew otherwise. But now when we read this, we're reading it this way, right? We shifted the reading frame one spot to the right. Well, what does UCG code for? UCG.
Serine.
UCG is serine. And what about GGU? Glycine, is that what you said? So that's glycine. And what about UUA? UUA, it's leucine. And then whatever this happens to be. Are this and this the same protein? No. And as this continues, they're going to be more and more a different protein. These, more often than not, frame shift mutations have major implications. If this occurs in a developing organism, usually it leads to what we call a fatal mutation, meaning the organism doesn't progress. All right, we got this before I show you the other one? So let's put our A back in here before I forget about it. Back to our original protein. Well, suppose I make my mistake here and I stick an A in here where it didn't belong before. My UAC is fine, I'm still gonna get tyrosine. Now I have AGG, right? And AGG is gonna give me arginine. And then I've got GUU and then UAU. Let's see. GUU is gonna give me valine. UAU is gonna give me tyrosine. Again, see here with the insertion, we move the whole reading frame one to the left. Again, ending up with a very, very different protein. So frame shift mutations tend to be much more significant because they change completely the protein. If we change that protein completely, now things aren't going to be the way they're supposed to be. Now, are they all fatal mutations? No, it might be something with hair color, so your hair doesn't get pigmented. That's not the end of the world. But what if it's, human growth hormone, and this is in utero? That embryo's not growing, it's not going to develop, it's not going to come to term. All right, any questions about that? Because now we have to remember this process because everything else we talk about tonight is related to this process. And we're going to start with talking about regulation of gene expression. Then I'll give you a break right before we come back and do operons. That way you'll be awake again when you come back. Because operons are not hard, but they're not easy either. And the funny thing about operons is either you get it right away or you don't. So I want to make sure you're awake and ready to go when that comes through. But let's talk about regulation of gene expression.